At first glance, Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock looked like the kind of celebrity couple publicists dream about. She was America's sweetheart with a powerhouse voice. He was a well-connected manager from a respected entertainment family. Together, they projected stability, warmth, and the comforting illusion that love and success could coexist without complications. Reality, however, had other plans. Because while the public saw red carpets and smiling interviews, behind closed doors, a much messier story was unfolding, one involving blurred professional boundaries, questionable financial decisions, and a level of betrayal so awkward it sounds like it came from a daytime soap opera writer's room that had too much coffee. Love, management, and the what could possibly go wrong. Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock married in 2013, and not long after, Brandon took on an additional role, managing Kelly's career. On paper, it sounded efficient. Who would care more about protecting her interests than her husband? What could possibly go wrong when one person controls your heart and your bank account? As it turns out, quite a lot. Brandon oversaw major decisions in Kelly's professional life, including her work on The Voice and eventually The Kelly Clarkson Show. He wasn't just part of the machine, he was driving it. And for years, Kelly trusted that the engine was running smoothly. It wasn't. A job description. That suddenly gets weird. Every celebrity has assistants. That alone isn't suspicious. What raised eyebrows was how close Kelly's assistant, Brittany Marie Jones, became to both Kelly and Brandon. Her role expanded over time, eventually involving schedule management for both spouses, which, in hindsight, feels like letting the fox manage the henhouse and the chicken calendar. Knowing where someone is when they're gone and how long they'll be away is powerful information. It's not inherently malicious, but when boundaries blur, things can spiral quickly, and spiral they did. By mid-2020, Kelly filed for divorce. Around the same time, pure coincidence surely, Brittany transitioned into working directly for Brandon at his Montana cattle operation. Years later, she would be publicly identified as his partner. At that point, even the most generous observers had to admit this timeline is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Where emotions die and spreadsheets reign supreme. If heartbreak didn't finish the job, the divorce settlement certainly tried. Despite being the primary earner and having primary custody of the children, Kelly was ordered to pay a staggering financial package that included a 7-figure lump sum and eye-watering monthly support payments. This wasn't pocket change. This was, did I accidentally buy a small island? Money. Public reaction ranged from confusion to disbelief. The math didn't sit well with many people, especially when it became clear that Brandon was not the primary caregiver. The court, of course, follows formulas, not vibes, but the optics were brutal. Kelly, meanwhile, did what she's always done, showed up to work, smiled politely, and carried on like her life wasn't being audited in public. The accounting plot twist nobody expected, but everyone enjoyed. Just when the story seemed painfully one-sided, the receipts arrived. After the divorce, Kelly initiated a deep financial review of her career earnings. What she found was inconvenient. Courts later determined that Brandon had taken millions in commissions he was not legally entitled to while managing her career. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. This wasn't just about a marriage falling apart. It was about financial control, misplaced trust, and a professional conflict of interest hiding inside a romantic relationship. The court ordered Brandon to repay the improperly taken money, giving Kelly a rare post-divorce plot twist where the spreadsheet actually fights back. Montana, the ranch that refused to let go. As if the emotional and financial drama weren't enough, the Montana ranch became its own subplot. Brandon refused to vacate the property, leading to extended legal battles that dragged on longer than some Netflix series. Eventually, the court ordered him to leave. Later records showed he purchased his own property in Montana anyway, which made the earlier resistance feel less about housing and more about control. What was once meant to be a peaceful family retreat turned into a symbol of unresolved tension. proof that even landscapes can become emotionally charged real estate. History repeats itself. Again. Observers couldn't help noticing eerie parallels between Brandon's situation and that of his father, Narvel Blackstock, who famously divorced Reba McEntire after decades of marriage. Reba later admitted she had been financially unprepared for the separation, having trusted her husband with business matters. Narvel reportedly walked away with a massive settlement and later married someone from Reba's close circle, because apparently awkward family dynamics run in the bloodline. Was it intentional, coincidental, or just an unfortunate case of history hitting the replay button? No one knows, but the similarities were impossible to ignore. The obituary that reopened old wounds. When Brandon Blackstock passed away after a battle with cancer, the story shifted into a far more delicate and uncomfortable territory. Death has a way of freezing narratives in place, but in this case, it did the opposite. It reopened conversations many assumed were finally laid to rest. Sympathy for a life lost existed alongside unresolved resentment, unanswered questions, and a past that never fully settled. Then came the obituary, and with it, a quiet but powerful statement. The notice honored Brandon's partner and highlighted his business ventures, presenting a carefully curated version of his later life. What it did not do was mention Kelly Clarkson, the mother of his children and the woman whose career and finances had been deeply intertwined with his for more than a decade. For some readers, this omission felt perfectly normal. Ex-spouses are rarely acknowledged in obituaries, especially after difficult divorces. For others, it felt symbolic, almost surgical in its precision, as if an entire chapter had been intentionally erased. Whether intentional or not, the absence spoke loudly. It reignited public discussion about how much Kelly had supported Brandon's career, how central she had been to his professional success, and how abruptly that partnership had ended. What should have been a moment of quiet reflection instead became a reminder that unresolved stories don't disappear just because time moves on. They wait, and sometimes they resurface in the smallest, most unexpected places, like a few carefully chosen lines in a final public record. Kelly Clarkson's quiet superpower. What stands out most in this entire saga isn't what Kelly Clarkson said, it's what she consistently chose not to say. In an era where personal pain is often monetized, dissected on social media, and turned into viral sound bites, Kelly resisted the temptation to turn her heartbreak into a public spectacle. She didn't weaponize interviews. She didn't flood timelines with cryptic posts. She didn't attempt to win the narrative by dragging anyone through the mud. Instead, she redirected her energy inward. She focused on her children, her work, and the slow, unglamorous process of regaining control over her finances and professional life. When emotions did surface publicly, they were subtle. An altered lyric during a live performance, a pause that lingered just a second too long, a song choice that felt pointed without being explicit. These moments weren't outbursts, they were pressure valves. In a culture addicted to oversharing, restraint became Kelly's quiet superpower. It allowed her to heal without performing that healing for an audience. It also denied critics and commentators the explosive drama they often expect from celebrity divorces. By choosing dignity over noise, she rewrote the rules of how public figures are supposed to react, and in doing so, reclaimed agency on her own terms. What this story is really about. Strip away the celebrity names, and this becomes a cautionary tale about mixing love with unchecked authority. It's about what happens when trust replaces transparency, when roles blur without safeguards, and when someone realizes, far too late, that being successful doesn't mean being protected. Kelly Clarkson didn't win because someone else lost. She survived because she reclaimed agency, demanded accountability, and refused to let betrayal define her future. And if there's one thing this story proves, it's this. Sometimes the strongest response isn't revenge, it's quietly taking your life back and making sure the accountant is finally on your side. If vetoes like this, where fame, power, and human flaws collide behind the scenes, fascinate you, you're in the right place. We break down the real stories beneath the headlines, without the noise, without the sugarcoating. If you want to be smarter every day, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos you won't hear the same way anywhere else.